It's been over a week since I've last casted a game of StarCraft 2. I had a little trip that I went on, and I of course did prepare YouTube videos in advance. Those have been going up on the channel automatically, but I haven't really seen any games. Now, even though I've been doing this for a very long time, I've been doing this full-time for like, what, 6, maybe 7 years at this point? It's been ages. I still get very excited to check out high-level StarCraft, so here we go. What I've got for you today is a best-of-3 series that is played in the round of 16 of the GSL Code S. That is the most prestigious tournament over in South Korea, which is certainly the most dominant country in this entire game. Now, the one video that I did upload, this was on Friday, if I'm not mistaken, that I did upload after, and I recorded it after I came back from my trip to the States, and I spent a little bit of time. I don't want to call it roasting, but I did spend a little bit of time insulting this Protoss player. Now, one of the series that I hadn't seen is this one right here, and from what I understand, he performs incredibly well. Playing with the red Protoss pieces, we have none other than Stats, one of the legendary Protoss players that we've historically had in the game. His opponent, in the opposite corner, one of the current greatest players in the world. Playing with the blue Zerg drones, we're looking at none other than Dark's main hatchery. It wasn't really so much a roast. Basically what I said, right, is that some Protoss players that went off to the military, like for example Stats, have not gotten back to their previous level, unlike, well, for example, Terran players like Bjorn, right? So both Bjorn and Stats did their mandatory military service. Bjorn, of course, one of the greatest Terrans in the world right now. There have been a few Protoss players that went off to the military, but it seems like they've never really been able to pick up their previous level. And a few of you pointed out in the comment section that, Loko, if you really think that way, you should go ahead and check out this series that Stats played against Dark in the GSL just a few days before I uploaded that video. In my defense, I didn't know, so, you know, it is. But anyways, I'm ready to be surprised. Now, because so many of you reached out and mentioned that I should really go ahead and check out this particular series, I'm actually leaning towards Stats. Like, considering so many of you reached out and mentioned that I should go ahead and check it out, doesn't that automatically also mean that the underdog wins? Because, certainly, don't get me wrong, Stats is going to be the underdog. The last time I saw him play was at IEM Katowice. He looked pretty good, but he was one of the lowest seeds coming into the tournament. And I mean, again, no disrespect at all, but Dark is one of the greatest players in the world. This man is absolutely lethal. He plays every strategy. And while sometimes you can criticize some of the decisions that he makes, because he does play like a bit of a jokester sometimes, this is a premier event, and I don't really expect that Dark is going to be, I don't know, doing any like early game proxy hatcheries or something along those lines. Generally speaking, it seems that Dark does switch out his playstyle quite a bit for these bigger events, the ones that he really wants to win. For the $100 cups that he participates in as well, the man will be more than happy to throw down a bunch of hatcheries on the other side of the map if he needs to. Curious to see what sort of playstyle Stats is going to bring to this series. Here's the first Oracle, 2 Adepts as well. Clean positioning right here by Dark. 1 drone? Nope, misfire right there. Oh, well. Dark was even presenting a drone. You go and die. But no, apparently no kills so far. And those are the little moves, though, that I look at, right, and I immediately draw conclusions from. Now, maybe I shouldn't, but those are the sorts of moves that I look at. I'm like, yeah, no, that should have been a dead drone. There was no reason other than a misclick why Stats did not get that worker. Okay, second Oracle kills a creep tumor where it takes a bit of hull damage. Not in love with that either. Now, obviously, StarCraft 2 is a game of little things. All of those little things generally do lead to very large results. Triple Oracle into a Twilight Council. So this is the modern stock standard in this matchup. Stats used to be known. His nickname was... Okay. Ooh, he goes in with the low HP one. Lovely. His nickname was the Shield of Ire. So you know how Showtime is known as the Mauer? Well, basically, Stats is like the more extreme version of that style. At least he used to be back in the day. I've seen him play a bit more aggressively in games since he came back from the military. Doesn't really seem to suit him too much. But playing defensively is one of those styles that requires a ton of practice. So we'll see if Stats still has it. Blink on the back of this. Ooh, Overlord speed on the back of this too. I like that for Dark. So this is about as clean an early game as Dark can play. The idea behind this push that he's going for is to load the queens into dropper lords, there we go, and then to go into Zerglings and Banelings on the other side of the map. This is going to hit extremely hard, especially because Dark has played such a good early game. If this would have been a charge slot follow-up, then suddenly, well, Lings and Banes can be a little bit dicey. But against Stalkers, this should work out quite well as well. I don't think you should engage here. Hello. Okay. Yeah, he just gave away a bunch of Zerglings. At the very least, the Oracles activated the Pulsar Beams. Careful now. 6 OVs coming up as well. Dark hitting a supply block. Bunch of mistakes being made right here by the Zerg player. That being said, though, he did draw this Protoss army very far away from the protection of any static defense. One Oracle falls. Queens are target firing down another Oracle. That one will also go down. This is before any Banelings have really presented themselves. The Overlords are now going to drop some creep. Branda puts down a tumor. And this is one of those attacks that is extremely difficult to hold. Now again, this is something that is holdable. Is that a word? I think it is. Anyways, it is something you can hold. It's just extremely tricky to do. Playing defensively in general is just much harder than being the aggressor. Because the margin for error is absolutely tiny. So let's see. Does Stats still have it? Queen's moving in. Baneling's morphing in as well. We have a battery overcharge. Stasis wards get triggered. Lovely work right there by Dark. Saw exactly what his opponent was going for. Queen gets picked off. Good targeting there as well. Keep in mind that these Stalkers do have Blink. Baneling's gone around the back. That's fine, though. That's totally fine. That's a very expensive decision right there by our Zerg player. I think Dark, at minimum, needs to kill this base. Ooh, and so far, nicely done right here by Stats. Even though he did butcher that one click with the Oracle. I know I'm being very critical here. He butchered one click with the Oracle. That was cleanly executed. Dark not really committing to it as hard as he could have. So he decided to fire up a lair and then transition towards the Hydralisks. So we've got ourselves the Hydra range coming up. And yeah, he did make a formidable army. But if you look at the worker count right now, look at this. 47 drones in total versus only, well, 60 probes. Or I guess rather 46. Only 46 drones versus 60 probes. There you go. Guys, I'm rusty. It's been a full week since I've casted a game of StarCraft. I know. This is a skill that you lose right away, okay? It's kind of like playing 1v1 ladder. Have you ever tried not playing 1v1 ladder after playing for like 2 months straight every single day? It's actually the worst. Like, StarCraft 2 is super painful like that. You don't play... Like, if you consistently play, like 10 ladder games a day for months at a time, right? I've done this so many times over the years. You consistently play every single day, put in the work, and then you don't play for like 2 weeks. It feels like I am so incredibly clumsy on the keyboard. It's insane. Apparently casting is much the same way, huh? Somehow 46 becomes a bigger number than 60, at least with the way that you phrased it. Alright, it's gonna be full-on Ling Hydra here for Dark. I don't love it. No. So he was expecting a full counterattack here from Stats. Stats, however, is Stats. Yeah. He is Showtime squared. You know, if StarCraft 2 was a math equation, Stats equals Showtime squared. He plays this game very defensively if he is allowed to get away with it. Dark clearly also expected Stats to be a little bit more aggressive and to at the very least punish him for his greed. So what Dark decided to do is not make any drones, even though he could have. So now he's re-droning again. But he made decisions. Oh, this is also a funky one. He's going Lurker then right here at Lair Tech. So Infestation Pit and Hive will be coming up eventually, but... yeah, Lair Tech is not really where you want to be playing Lurkers. Honestly, Lurkers are one of those units that, yeah, you can make it Lair Tech, but you may as well not bother. It's kind of like Ultralisks, you know? Ultralisk without their armor upgrade? What's the point? Lurkers also definitely do need their Hive Tech upgrades, and this is giving Stats a ton of time. Yeah. So, Stats is set up for a perfect macro game. Question is, can he do it? Right? Because even though Dark is a bit of a monster when it comes to his early game and mid game and cheese and all that, his late game is incredible. We don't really get to see it all too often because he seems to win a lot of games before that point, but yeah, it is not something that he is weak at by any stretch of the imagination. Now, this is interesting though, the fact that he's going like 6 Lurkers before any Hive upgrades. Yeah. So this is the Zerg equivalent of putting down a bunch of planetary fortress and choke points, you know? This is the Zerg equivalent of building a ton of static defense. It's static defense that's not static. Which would make it defense. Yeah. Anyways. Fleet Weekend coming up right now on the back of this together with a second Stargate. We've got ourselves a bunch of upgrades rolling here. Charge is going to finish up momentarily. Adept is casual about it. She does not want to protect the Wolof all too well, but at the very least she's trying. At the very least there's no all army hotkeying here. Now I think that's actually by design, yeah. It's to basically allow the Immortals and other big Protoss units to move by the Adept here. There's the mothership, alright. I feel like late game Protoss is still not quite figured out as well as it could be. I know that may be a bit of a crazy statement, because we do see late game Protoss a lot from players like, for example, MaxBax, from players like, for example, Showtime, but if you look at perfect execution, right, I feel like we've kind of gotten there with Zerg. If you see players like Serral, or if you see Serral, because nobody else really plays like him, you look at that late game army control, and I can't really pinpoint a whole lot of improvements. A lot of the improvements that Serral could make just have to do with him dealing with very limited amounts of information, right? Like, you look at his army positioning sometimes, you're like, maybe that could be improved on ever so slightly. But the reason for his army's positioning is that he doesn't know where the opponent is located. There's little things like that that are very difficult to improve on when you don't have that perfect knowledge. However, I feel like when it comes to, like, Protoss late game perfection, we haven't really seen it all too often, right? Like, it's not really something that we frequently see, even at the absolute highest level. Very commonly, we see the mothership on the same control group as everything else. Mothership is just sort of hanging in the back. Sometimes it will cast a spell, but usually it's done after the High Templar, and we're like, oh snap, I still have this unit, let's see what it does. Oh yeah, right, I can activate the cloaking field, right? Like, it just doesn't feel quite as smooth. I'm curious to see if maybe stats can bring some of that. We have a lot of overlords, by the way, constantly flying around the map. Not exactly sure. Just providing vision. Obviously, there is a... I did see a Nidus network right over there, so at least that's an option. 2 Banelings inside of the plane. Nidus coming up right now in the middle of the map. This is a scary moment in the match, though, here for stats. Like, yes, he's maxed out. Yes, he's got all the tools that he needs to defend against this, but we see this going wrong very, very commonly. High Templar that get YOLO'd into Lurkers, right? Like, that is something I've seen so many times, to the point where it bothers me greatly. Not losing Templar after Templar would be sweet. Okay, first abductions. There's the Mama ship. Alright. Well. Yeah, that was the mothership, guys. I know, quality commentary. That's why you get to my channel. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah, no, Stats is getting torn apart here. So why did he get torn apart? Well, the High Templar were not positioned properly, and he had no idea where the Zerg army was located, or at the very least, he didn't respect it. Nidus Worm going up in the back. To clarify, the High Templar ability, Feedback, has higher range than Abduction. So in theory, every single time you see an Abduction going down, it's because Zerg was allowed to use the Abduction, right? A Feedback would always get rid of that energy if the High Templar are positioned properly and if those High Templar are within range of those Vipers. But since the Vipers need to be closer to the, well, in this case, the mothership in order to abduct it, you really just need to know, right? Like, flying around this bit of space with your mothership basically touching this edge and High Templar never being within range, right? Or like right over here. There's just a bunch of spots on maps where you shouldn't really be positioning your big, slow Protoss units. And yeah, it allowed Dark so much value there. Still not a bad game there, though. 4 stats, by any stretch of the imagination. There's another abduction. Still no Feedback. High Templar right there, derping in the back. Looks like the push over here at the very least was moved away. Okay. Spire coming up on the back of this. So Dark actually intended on winning here with just Hydras? Hydra, Lurker, Viper, Dark? Okay. That's a bit of an old school unit composition in my book. Still very good. But we do have Lurkers on the horizon, because usually when the carrier numbers grow, this is a good engagement though for stats. Yeah, does get some nice hits in there. Oh, that's what we want to see. That's what we want to see. Well, not the High Templar dying. That was suboptimal, but... Yeah, it's interesting, because there is so much power in the High Templar, right? Like, the High Templar is such a critical unit. In my mind, this Zerg army here is still good without the Vipers, right? It's still good without Infestors, because we don't even have any Infestors at this point. However, the High Templar, they are the most awkward unit to control, because they're kind of slow. And they're also the most critical units to control. Both the feedback ability as well as the Psionic Storm, absolutely phenomenal. Without it, this army is just gonna die to anything, really. Like, without Templar, it's actually kind of absurd. Without High Templar, this army just dies to anything. So in my mind, as somebody who has been trying to control late-game Zerg armies for many, many years, since everything is just one control group, right? At least the important spellcaster is one control group, opposed to, well, the control groups you need to control this late-game Zerg army. It just seems like it shouldn't be as tricky. Yet we rarely see it done perfectly, though, at the pro level, so, eh. Stalkers getting poked away at right here by a bunch of spines. This is forcing Dark to move back, though. I do really like the army movement here from stats. Pushing onto creep, clearing out some of the creep, but ultimately trying to get to a point where he's stable. Yeah. My only concern right now here for stats, though, is what exactly is his win condition? Because he's got a good army, he's got a good economy. He's been dealing with all of this aggression here from the Zerg quite well. Yes, he's lost a few units unnecessarily, but the traits have been optimal. If you look at the units lost at this point, you can't really wish for a lot more. Shutting this one down as well before it lays eggs. But what is the win condition? Like, how are we going to obtain the victory here? One approach that Protoss players like to make is the full bulldozer army, right? So you basically try to create a death ball worth of units, and then you march through the creep straight to your opponent's throat, right? Like, that's one of the approaches we see very often. I don't think it's very good against players like Dark, because Dark is very good at that spellcaster army, and I think he's going to be able to slow you down enough to get constant reinforcements. So the Spore Crawlers here, there's another feedback, another abduction, but I mean, it was a little bit too late. Mothership not even attempting to fly away there. She just accepted her fate. Yeah, I think against Dark it's difficult to really go for the full bulldozer approach. He doesn't have a Greater Spire though, does he? No Greater Spire, so that is something worth noting. Lurkers oftentimes are accompanied with Brute Lords these days, although we're just gonna push in, it looks like. Okay, Hatchery falls. Lovely move right here. We do have a Fungal Growth, another Abduction, no Templar. Templar, like, you see how the Templar come running after the Abduction goes down? That is not the order in which these sort of things should go. This is also a little suboptimal, though, here for Dark, not moving those Vipers away. Maybe I'm being too critical here, I don't know. I turn into a member of the Zerg Cabal. One of the most recent memes on this, well, not really recent, it's been an ongoing meme for a long time, but one of the recent memes in the StarCraft community is the Zerg Cabal. Secretly, there's a lot of people that believe I am part of the Zerg Cabal as well. Secretly, there's a few Zerg members behind the scenes that are steering everybody's belief into a certain direction. And some people believe that I am part of, the StarCraft 2 Illuminati. Yeah. I will not be able to confirm nor deny any of these accusations, nor will I be making any statements about it moving forward. Now, but seriously though, seeing the Templar running in after the feedbacks should have already landed, it grinds my gears a little bit, just a little bit. I do like the movement though here from Stats. One thing that Stats has always been really good at is picking his battles and then moving away when he needs to. It's so easy with these armies to overextend. No, see the temp? Look at this movement here. Okay, sorry, I'm backing up. But look at the movement right here. So we see the Vipers moving forward, and then after that, the High Templar move forward. Those High Templars should already be close enough to abduct the Viper. Or, well, to prevent the abduction of the Viper. So here comes the Viper. Here's the High Templar. Now they move in. It's a very finicky engagement, don't get me wrong. It is not something that's easily done. There's so many different moving parts in these battles that I understand that it's very tricky. I would actually be, I guess, quite okay with the High Templar getting like +1 range on feedback, although that might honestly be a little broken. But that would make that engagement so much easier, for sure. Because the problem you run into, right, if you move too far forward to your High Templar, then suddenly those Lurkers are gonna be, yeah, within range. So you don't want to lose your Templar. And that's also a problem. There's so much power in the Templar, but then at the same time, they're so flimsy. At least they have those water balloons these days, but yeah. Got a love-hate relationship with the High Templar. I can't help but feel that this game, though, is going in favor of Dark the longer that it goes on. Even though a lot of these traits have been very suboptimal for the Zerg, Zerg obviously has that insane economy. Now, this is a lovely little run-by. Prism all the way up north. Hello? Yeah, like the High Oh. Really, Dark? Alright. The High Templar would have died like 7 times there already, right? The Infestor still ended up falling. Maybe the Templar should have more health? I'm not sure. I also feel like some of it is unnecessary, though. Again, Templar moving in after the Vipers come in, and it just does not feel like the correct approach. Now suddenly, the entire Zerg army is coming knocking. This is a super scary approach. Is Stats going to move up the high ground? There's not that much anti-air, though. There's 25 Hydras. Here's the cloaking field being activated. We do not have a detector nearby right here. Oh, he snipes the Nidus Worm over here, and that now allows this entire Protoss army to chase that Zerg Bull. Lovely activation right there on the mothership, cloaking a lot of those units underneath for just a moment. And now suddenly, well, the Bulldozer may very well be coming. Dark is actually doubling down on Hydralisks. That surprises me a little bit. I know he's fully upgraded in that department, which is fair enough. But with enough storms, I mean, there's still 7 Templar. A lot of them just got warped in, so they won't have a lot of energy, but with enough storms, there's more feedbacks. Oh god, at least there's more feedbacks available. There's another abduction, though, used by the Viper. We have a few microbial shrouds going down as well to try and mitigate some of that damage. I wouldn't mind seeing Stats going back home again, honestly. This is risky for him. He needs to land storms, and he does land storms. His economy is really not that bad. Yes, it's only 45 probes. And it kind of feels like you have to make a move right now as the Protoss player. Because you lost the base over here, you lost the base in the center, you lost tons of probes during all of that too. But economically speaking, this game is actually quite manageable, yeah. Stats once again backing off at the correct moment. I don't love the engagements that he's doing, but he is doing some excellent maneuvering here with his army. So he killed the base over here, he checked for the base in the bottom left, and he knows that at this point the Zerg economy really can't be booming. So we back off. This is cool. I feel like a lot of Protoss players at this point in the game would feel the need, the urge to move forward here. And it could have worked out for him, don't get me wrong, but I think backing off when you have 4 carriers on the production tab may just be the right move. Okay, that was a good feedback right there. But at the very least, the Viper already got its abduction off. Vipers are expensive units too, though. So just, yeah, moving it out of the rotation. There you go. That's some good feedbacks right there on the high ground. Hydra's moving in. Hydras and Queens moving in. This is going to force a decision right here for Stats. Is he going to commit? I think he is. Rather than going back home right now, which is secretly what Dark is hoping for. Dark overextending right there with a bunch of those infestors. So much damage here being done. No splits right there on the carriers, but carriers, of course, do have a ton of shields. Reinforcing Hydras. Pop out of their cocoons straight to their deaths. Do we have a detector nearby, Stats? No, we do not have a detector. He cannot see all of those Lurkers, and that is ultimately moving him back home. Hydras also did come back, but they did kill a base and 23 workers in the process as well. Mothership number 7 being made. Okay, 5. Observer did just pop out of the robo facility. Careful maneuvering around this space, though. How many Vipers do we have? 0. All of the Vipers went down. Yep, I've been quite critical right here of Stats' army movement, I guess. Specifically, the High Templar positioning. I love the engagements that he's picking, but I should be equally critical right here of the way that Dark has been doing that as well. And Dark has given away quite a few of his very expensive spellcasters for free as well. And that may end up biting him in the butt quite a bit. Oh, I feel like Stats is actually playing much faster as well than he did at Katowice. Like, I feel like this is like a plus 100 average actions per minute here. Cool. Careful now. Are we gonna go for the mass recall? Are we gonna go for the offensive recall in the main base? Let's go, Stats. There we go. He's recalling his army into the main base of the Zerg. Suddenly they appear. Lurkers are of course out of position, and this is triggering a full-on base race. Now keep in mind, the Mothership and the Nexus do not share a cooldown, meaning that you can always recall way back home if you have the energy for it, and well, if of course the mass recall ability is not on cooldown. I think he's gonna destroy all of the tech. Are we gonna recall now to the natural, or are we gonna continue? I think we have to recall. Do we not recall? Stat. Okay, where are we going? We're going for this base. Calm and collected. Not too fast on the keyboard. Not making decisions that may bite you in the butt. If you just recall, it would always recall to the closest by one, as we do have a couple Templar coming in. Oh, with the storms from the side. I think that Prism, yeah, is gonna end up getting sniped, but with it, they have done so much damage though. Those Templar and that Prism. I think with it, Stats may have just secured the win. Stats may have just secured the win in a proper macro game against Dark. Lovely stuff. Really cool. Yeah, I don't love individual engagements as much, but I feel like overall the decision making here by Stats has been phenomenal. Game number 2. We find ourselves on the map Oceanborn. Standard build orders right here from both players. I've decided to go to the 2-minute mark right here. Oh, yeah, we're gonna fake that Warp Gate research for just a moment, going to the Stargate, and then eventually restart the Warp Gate research here as well momentarily. It's one of those things that Protoss players like to do. I had a quick little look at Stats' Liquipedia page, and it turns out Stats is currently 31 years old, aka basically ancient. But he was born in the greatest year of them all, 1992. Yeah, 1992, greatest year of them all. Both me and Stats were both getting very old. It's interesting though that even players like, for example, Dark, I think Dark's like 28. He has also made comments along the lines of, yeah, I'm getting too old, I can't really keep up anymore with the speed of these young players. I think that's specifically a reference to Clem and Rainer. I think they are both like 21, maybe 22, something along those lines. Obviously, all of it is tongue-in-cheek, right? But I know that Stats made similar comments as well at IAM Katowice. Obviously, he managed to qualify for the tournament, but he didn't necessarily have as hard a route as some of those other pro gamers. But it is fun to see Stats once again competing at a high level and beating players like Dark when there is still improvement, right? Like it's not like that was a flawless game right there from our Protoss player. Like, there were certain moments where I feel like we had obvious room for improvement. He was a little slow dealing with some of the Nidus worms. Well, I've discussed the whole High Templar situation to death, and you may disagree with me if you want to. Let me know down below in the comment section if you do. That's totally fine. All of that being said, though, there is obvious improvement still possible. And whenever there is obvious improvement possible, and you already win against, well, one of the greatest players in the world, that gets me, as a fan of StarCraft 2, very excited. We do need a third Oracle. There will be one popping out momentarily. These Oracles are not at home. Okay, careful now, Mr. Stats. I think he's fine. Nah, he's totally fine. He doesn't even need a third Oracle. Nah, this is totally okay. Making that many lings also slows down the advancement right here of the droning. So this is not quite as good an early game right here that Dark has compared to the previous game. Pretty quick Roach Warren from him. We'll have to see if he decides to do anything with it. This is a map where you can go for a Queen March. Yep, I think that's what we have. There you go. Brenda, Karen, Margaret, Lily, Susan. That's it. That's it. I did them all. I thought there was one more queen going off to the side. Anyways, doesn't matter. Beth was gonna be the next one, by the way, in case you're interested. Those are, in my mind, American boomer names. English boomer names, maybe more accurate. Those are not names we use in the Netherlands. I have never met a Dutch lady named Beth. Betty. Betty would be, I guess, the Dutch equivalent. Really? We're gonna kill the Spore Crawler? What are we doing right now? Stats! Stats, what was that? He's forcing the oversaturation? Huh. I think I hate everything about that move. Problem is, he needs these oracles at home. Like, the economy right now for Dark is gonna be pretty atrocious, okay? But he's maybe that was brilliant, actually. Giving up an oracle to kill a Spore Crawler to deny mining at 2 bases. So despite Dark's worker count right now, he can't really effectively mine. So Stats decided to immediately give up on that 3rd and make a ton of static defense. Now, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and that one is called a Dark Shrine. So I guess it's not a light, it's a dark. Against Dark? Whoa. Anyways, all that Stats is really aiming for right now is to buy time. And you know what? That was, The queens, by the way, did go back home, so mining resumed in the natural. That was a very curious response right there from Stats. I'm gonna say it. Yeah, I don't think I actually hate it as much as I thought I did. I still kind of hate it. That kind of looked like a bit of a ladder hero's response to that sort of thing. But maybe it's actually quite clever. A lot of Protoss players try to hold onto your 3rd base, right? And they will try to keep that alive to the best of their abilities. Rarely does that ever really seem to work out well. That was actually very cool. Yeah. You know what? If you're like say like you're, I don't know, a Diamond League Protoss and you struggle against these sort of pushes from the Zerg, denying mining in 2 bases like that, when you see there's no Spore at the 3rd, you kill the Spore over here, all the queens are gone, give up on the 3rd base, make a ton of static defense, go into a Dark Templar follow-up. It is actually kind of smart. Yeah. It is the more common approach we see at the highest level is to micro your butt off over at the 3rd base, especially when you have Blink done. Obviously, not the case in this game, but you can do a lot of micro against that sort of thing. Yeah, ultimately you end up with a relatively even economical spot, and there's not really a whole lot of things that can go wrong there. Whereas if you're forced to micro, obviously, yeah, Protoss units in general pretty clunky. Not a bad idea. Nidus Network together with an Infestation Pit. Is this what I think it is? Dark. Are we gonna go Swarm Hosts? I think this has to be Swarm Hosts. Yes? Oh my god, really? Okay. So Swarm Hosts are widely considered to be the worst Zerg unit, but everybody that I know agrees that they should not get a buff. I think a lot of StarCraft players of old men like me and Stats, we all remember the Swarm Host era. The Swarm Host era, it was not very fun. Right now they're a very niche unit, which I think is very cool. Bzz, bzz. Okay. Now, yeah, so the Swarm Host obviously can fly their Locust, rather. Is that plural? Locust? Locusts? Anyways, they can fly their dudes to the high ground. And yeah, deal a lot of damage. This is super annoying, actually. That building positioning is suboptimal. No reason to have your Forge over here. No reason for your Twilight Council to be over here. There's a reason why they're always tucked away in the main base. Stats getting punished for it. Looks like we are gonna have a transition straight to what I would imagine is gonna be Lurkers here as well, which I think is actually very cool. Problem with Lurkers, or sorry, with Swarm Hosts is that they're not very powerful per supply point. So they're very expensive as far as supply goes. And you max out extremely quickly. But your army can't really be improved, of course, when you're at 200 out of 200 supply. So there is a moment where you want to give up those roaches, you want to give up those swarm hosts, and you want to transition towards lurkers. Because if Protoss manages to build up, and there's no cancel, if Protoss manages to build up about, I'm going to say 110 or so army supplies, so that's the little sort over here at the bottom of the screen. If this goes up to over 100, life's going to be a lot more comfortable, and if Protoss can hit the Zerg in the face in between Locust waves, sometimes those, so we finally did have the Dark Templar being used, sometimes those, yeah, sometimes those Protoss armies can overwhelm you. So Dark going for a straight transition from Swarm Host into Lurkers is quite clever. Even though he currently doesn't have the supply for it, he knows where this game is headed if the aggression is not quite perfect for him. So far so good though right here for Dark. Honestly, he may not need it. Once again, Swarm Host here on the left. Main army here on the right. Lurker transition is imminent, so you can quite easily move forward. Fleet Beacon also on the production tab right now for stats. But this is so painful. Oh, he's opening the front door. Alright, yeah, just kill whatever you can. The Locust DPS is off the charts. Yeah, super tough. Super tough game right here for stats. I quite like this idea, though, from Dark. The fact that, like, yeah, he's 1-0 behind, so maybe he shouldn't be going for a tricky strategy. I like it because stats clearly hasn't been quite at the same level as he used to be back in the day. At least, like, in this series so far, he's looking solid. But I can imagine this is the type of strategy that stats will rarely practice against because nobody plays Swarm Host. And they do require a very specific approach. You can't play against Swarm Host as you would, well, against any other aggression, right? You can't really... So far, not bad, though. If stats can manage to get this fourth base up and running, life's actually manageable for him. Problem is, Lurkers are on the production tab. Lurker ranged is coming up. +3, we're going to be going into some armor upgrades, or maybe even melee upgrades here momentarily, too. Okay. Yeah, Storm is nice. Colossi are also nice, but obviously those Locusts are free. They're just cooldown based, so any kill you can get at this stage in the game is quite nice. Now, of course, since those Swarm Hosts are very supply heavy, Dark doesn't have that big of an economy on the back of this either. He's only at 61 workers, whereas stats right now is at 80. You know what? Stats is creating opportunities for himself here. Yeah. That would be insane. A 2-0 against Dark? Who is... Well, it's hard to say when Dark is really at his prime, because Dark's always good. But Dark certainly is not a weak player at the moment. Plus, we know how he plays these events. He takes them very serious. Lovely stuff. Really cool. Stargates are coming. Mothership on the production tab. Ranged upgrades. Missile upgrades for the flying units. We got a little bit of everything. I don't know if you can hear, but I've been casting this with a big smile on my face for the majority of the time. Even while I was roasting stats, okay? As a fan of StarCraft, it's just really cool to see players coming back. Like, if you haven't been watching StarCraft 2 for that long, it may be a little tricky to really explain, right? But imagine, like, one of your childhood legends decided to pick up the sport again that you have been watching for your entire life, right? And basically comes back. Like, that's essentially the way that this sort of feels. Once again, here's the cloaking field, here's the time warp. Some of the Protoss units did manage to sneak away, and they're gonna go after some of these things. Killing the Overseer would be amazing, but it's just barely too far away. That engagement is a little finicky, though. Looks like the base will live. Hatchery, though, yeah, also is going to stay alive. And ultimately, Dark is once again arriving at good old Hydra Lurker. Hydra Lurker Viper would be the logical follow-up here. We haven't had any Vipers yet, but I can imagine that they are going to be coming next. Stats is playing a very gas-heavy style, and that is one of the problems here. He really needs to make sure that he secures all of those gases ASAP, because he doesn't have a lot of it at this point, and yeah, obviously it got killed by the very first wave of Swarmhost Locust, if I'm not mistaken. He needs to rebuild this Vespian Geyser. It's a small thing, very easy to forget. That's what she said. No. But it's really important that we do bring that Vespian Geyser back. Oh, Lurker's caught in that stasis ward, apparently. Okay. I missed that one, because there was so much movement around the map. Yeah, Dark is doing his classic approach, though, where he's trying to smother his opponent in aggression. Looks like Stats is staying on top of it quite well. Yeah. He does need some more Templar. He's running low on Templar. Yeah, Dark is getting to a point, though, where it kind of feels like he's tightening the noose. Question is Stats going to be able to get a finger underneath the noose, you know? Like, it's very dicey here. Yes, it's a scary Protoss army, but it's also a very flimsy army in a way. Okay, evacuation of the low ground. Zealots, okay, moving on over towards the mirrored location on the other side of the map. Time Warp is going to slow down some of the units in the bubble. Okay, they're going to settle for an Archon or two. Base over here is now being made, but this is very slow. In a few minutes time, sure, this is going to be fine for Stats if he is still alive. Problem is, Dark is not really going to let go. I've got a feeling that ultimately this is going to lead to a Dark win. Just because even though this is an uncomfortable game right here for Dark, Dark has got his opponent exactly where he's been trying to get him. We're 16 minutes in. Yeah, main, natural, as well as the third are basically out of minerals. So Stats' income right now is atrocious. Despite the fact that Dark has never really gone over more than like 61 workers in this game, he still has mineral fields to mine. He still has resources to gather. So his worker count may not have been amazing at any point, but you can see that it's starting to be a very solid advantage. And even though this Nexus is going to finish up, I think Dark can make a move for it. If you move in here as the Locusts are flying in, you can probably... Oh, stasis! Lovely stasis again, though. That's gonna buy him so much time. Okay, well, that's honestly all that Stats really needs. He just needs time. Oh, it's possible. Okay. Templar moving in. Swarm Host popping out of the worm. This Locust wave is actually very critical. The Locust flank. Yeah, he's facing it head on. Fair, but that's expensive. Hydra's in the meantime moving in as well. This is still on a razor's edge, though. Because this is an army composition that doesn't have a lot of longevity here for Dark either. Oh, good feedbacks. Those are the feedbacks we want to see. Okay. Lurkers are getting within range of the Nexus, though. And this Nexus is the lifeline. It's gone. There's a new base building at the 12 o'clock position, as well as right next to it. So Stats double expanding at this point. Yeah, Stats needs a little bit of time to breathe here. It's just that Dark is not really giving that. Still though, where do you go now as Dark? I think this location here is very tempting. Alternatively, he could move to those two bases. This is the soft underbelly of the Protoss, though. Getting over in that location would be amazing. Finally, Stats realized that that gas geyser was never taken. Well, it immediately is gonna get shut down once more. This base is now done. Okay, Nexus and gas geysers will fall. Okay. Yeah, I'm still liking Dark's position a lot more at this stage in the game. But I'm very impressed with the way that Stats is getting it done here. Yeah. He is managing himself just fine. A few unfortunate moments that happened in a game of StarCraft. But I feel like Stats even like 2 months ago would have gotten absolutely bopped by Dark. definite upward trajectory right here for our Protoss player from Korea. In case you're unfamiliar, by the way, Stats has won many tournaments over the course of his career. Like, the man has got, like, I think, like $650,000 or so in tournament earnings. And this is from an era of StarCraft where prize pools, in general, were a little bit lower. So he is an absolute legend. He's won a lot of stuff. Yeah, I think ultimately he's not going to win this game. But it's a best of 3, so... You know what? That means more games for us, I guess. Love the Swarm House style, by the way, here from Dark. Really cool to see him bringing that unit back. With so much effectiveness, too. Well, I mean, the Colossi are having a grand old time. It's just that Stats is gonna go up against a Remax Zerg here very soon. Both of the Nexus have gone down. Nexi have gone down. Natural is also gone, of course. So, Stats right now has got no income. Yeah, okay, well, sorry, lads. I know you're all hard at work, but they're basically no income. He does still manage to stay alive, though, and he's doing a bit of a counterattack. It's just that supply-wise, yeah, this is pretty much impossible. GG is cold. It's Dark who obtains the victory in game number 2. Alrighty. Our final game for today, it takes place on the map Site Delta. Who do you think is the highest earner when it comes to Protoss players in tournament winnings alone? Obviously, we don't really know what team salaries are currently like, although I've heard that they're not too bad in 2024. Either way, apparently it's Zest. Zest has got a total tournament earnings of a little over $690,000. Second would be SOS at $664,000. Stats is third at $627,000. Yeah. Right below that is Neeb, actually. The American player Neeb at 589. Not bad at all. And I know somebody is always going to ask, who is the highest earner of all time in StarCraft 2? Well, it will probably not come as much of a surprise. You may remember, right, a little while ago, at least in my mind, in my memory, this is a little while ago, but I guess it's been a little bit already. I remember both Cero and Maru surpassed the $1 million mark for tournament earnings. Cero is sitting just shy of $1.5 million now. And honestly, with the way that he's playing right now, I have no idea who's gonna match that man. Yeah. We'll see how he does at the World Cup this year. I don't think anybody would be surprised if Cero ends up sitting at, I don't know, close to 2 million at the end of the year. The guy's really insane right now. Yeah. Anyways. Site Delta. A match for all the marbles. I always like that. I never use that phrase in my casting, but this is a match for all the marbles, okay? This takes me back to my childhood right away. I did a lot of marbles when I was a kid. Yeah, this was a very common activity at my school. We always had these things called flippos as well. You guys remember flippos? Is this just a Dutch thing? I have no idea. Let me look it up. They were like these Looney Tunes circular plastic discs. What? They have a different name in English? Tazos? Is that right? I have no idea. I just googled it. In Dutch we called them flippos. I know that much. Those were also very popular at the school that I went to. Right? There were like phases. There was like a Pokemon card phase. There was like a flippo phase, right? There were a bunch of different ones. Beyblades? Yeah, we had many different ones. One of the classics though was always marbles. And this is a match for all of them. I was pretty good at marbles. I don't want to flex or anything, but I hope you're impressed by like 8-year-old Loko destroying the playground. No, I wasn't, you know, I wasn't top tier, but I was like the elementary school equivalent of Master League. Yeah, I was pretty good, but I had a couple GMs in school, you know, a real problem. Anyways, Zergling's coming in right here. I could talk about marbles all day. Zerglings being a bit annoying, but honestly, not the end of the world. The main thing, though, is that obviously they pulled that Oracle all the way back, right? And this Oracle was meant for base harassment. Look how sad he is. You see this sad okay, no, never mind. He's cheered up. But that looked like a very sad Oracle to me. Sometimes I'm afraid whenever I like translate something to Dutch or I bring up something that we only have in the Netherlands, that those words mean something offensive in other languages, you know? There's a very good chance that flippo is something bad in another language. I don't think it's bad in English, but I can imagine like there may be a language out there where that is like the worst insult you could ever give somebody. Oh, well, it is what it is, guys. They were fun. I remember collecting them. I've always been a nerd. Yeah, always. Oh, a lot of drone kills here, though. So what Dark is trying to do in this match is create chaos. This reminds me a little bit more of the online matches that Dark plays. Ah, stats, though. Managing himself beautifully. 9 drones, 10 Zerglings for only 2 adepts. That does not get a whole lot better. There's enough adepts to defend the 3rd base. I love this for Stats. The only thing is that Stats is not planning on ever winning the game before minute 20, it seems like. So that's going to give Dark a lot of time to get back into the match. That's also historically one of the criticisms that you could have of Stats. That he played a little bit too predictably, right? So if Dark thinks that he's going to get a Stats-like game here, just like what we saw in game number 1, he could drone super greedily. He could probably drone to 4-base saturation. Because the odds of Stats committing to a 3-base timing attack, pretty much 0. I say that. Templar Archive's coming up. Would love to see Charge, maybe. Charge would be really good. Okay, well, it's gonna be Blink. Oh, hello. It's gonna be Blink. Either way, I think like a Charge Zealot all-in type of push would be really cool. It's just very far away from what, you know... Or Charge Zealot. Ah, yeah. Charge Archon is what I meant. But anyways, I think those sorts of attacks are just kind of far away from what Stats normally likes to go for. But Dark is playing against his opponent now. Yeah. He had to be reminded. But he realizes, wait a second. Stats never attacks. He harasses, sure. Honestly, seeing a photon cannon already would set me way off to just play super greedy. And that's what Dark's doing. Double expanding at this point. This is really clever. This is Stats, yeah, basically showing his entire hand in game number 1. And Dark is now playing around it. Quick infestation pit. Quick second evo chamber. This is a Zerg player who would 100% lose against any sort of 3-base pushing. Yeah, but this is not what Dark would do against, well, other Protoss players. There's no way he would do this against Hero. Hero would destroy him if he decided to pull a trick like this. Dark has done similar things as well recently against Max Specs, where he is playing Max Specs rather than Protoss, if that makes any sense. Like, he adjusts his playstyle. So this is great stuff right here, right? So what Stats is doing, I really like it for an individual game. Like, say you're playing a best of 1, say you're only playing ladder matches, I think this style right here that Stats is going for is brilliant. Because your opponent will play against a wide variety of players, and they will realize, okay, if I decide to play greedy right now, I lose against a lot of different, well, bits of Protoss aggression, right? This particular instance. Dark, however, is realizing, yo, I know that you like to play greedy, and if you like to play greedy, I can get away with all of this. This Roach Warren, super duper duper late. Yeah, I added an extra duper in that sentence. This Roach Warren is, I want to say like 3 minutes later than the one that we saw in game number 2. Yes. That's, maybe I could have added another duper. It could have been super duper duper duper. It's very late is what I'm saying. He's running around with the Zerglings here. This is also what Dark likes to do. This is not even so much to, like, you know, get damage done, but mostly to just make himself look more threatening than he actually is. Because this is, for all intents and purposes, basically his entire army. Yeah, there's a couple of roaches sitting out there, but this is a pathetic Zerg army. It's just that Stats is giving his opponent a lot of time. Yeah, and that's one thing I don't love. about the defensive Protoss players' workbook. They like to play this style. They're very good at it. But it's also very predictable. Well, speaking of unpredictability, though, this is Ling into Muta into Ultra for Dark. I think the next minute is going to be pretty scary here for Dark. It would be scary if Stats decided to attack. Right now, though, not so much. I wouldn't even mind seeing Dark go up to like 90 plus, maybe even 100 workers. There's once again the fleet beacon here. Yeah, so Stats playing a expected style. Now the Mutas show up. Let's see how you handle those. More popular than Swarm Host, that for sure, but obviously Dark is very good at controlling them, and so far, well, you do need that speed. Some of the army gets recalled towards the main base. That was a lot of Mutas going down, though, for just 7 probes. Great Aspire here coming up as well. +3 melee starts up, +2 armor. Okay, I think Dark is safe. Yeah. Once these upgrades are done in particular, life is super comfortable for the Zerg. One problem you run into on this map here is that it's difficult for Protoss to take a 5th. So this base over here, where do you take it? Do you take it over here? Or do you go for the forward one? Both of them feel exposed. Especially since usually you put a lot of effort into defending this section of the map. Roly-poly upgrade not yet done. Okay, good. Good movement right there by Stats. A little slow, but... He's 31 now, right? Just like me, so... Our reaction speeds are starting to suffer. When does your reaction speed properly start to suffer? It's honestly hard to say. There's a lot of people that will say that it's pretty young, right? So the Brute War guys, they will tell you it's like 26. 26, that's when you're at your peak. And then at the same time, you have guys in the Formula 1 like, you know, Fernando Alonso, who's like, I think approaching his mid-40s at this point, and he's still competing with guys that are in their early 20s. Maybe he's a statistical outlier, who knows, but... There is certainly a bit of a stereotype almost, as far as that sort of thing goes, where players are like, nah, you can't play anymore when you're 30, that's insane. I think we call that copium. Yeah, I think that's copium. I think that's people making up excuses. Okay. Ooh, that was a good surround though, but it looks like it will not matter because the cloaking field gets activated. Push over here in the meantime as well on the left side of the map, but that one has been handled. Muta's still harassing. They go after the gas geyser, fair enough. Good crisis management here, once again by Stats, although this... Okay, yeah, no, he moved too far away. This is gonna cost him. Council on the hatch. The Protoss hatch, that is. Looks like these Stalkers should be able to clear the job, although the energy is no longer there on the batteries. We're gonna need an observer here too. I feel like the mothership should be an observer. Anyways. Nidus Worm coming up. This is something that Dark has been loving as of late. This is an army, though, for the Zerg that is very mediocre. It's... Even when there's a load of Ultras, it's not that good. I think you really do want to grab at least a handful of Brute Lords with a unit composition like this. But obviously Dark is just trying to buy a lot of time. Chitinous Plating is going to finish up momentarily. We already have 7 Ultras. These guys are not very good until their armor upgrade finishes, but I think he should be able to get that done easy peasy before a major engagement takes place. No observers in the mix anywhere. We've seen a lot of Immortals getting picked off. Oh, well, we've had 3 picked off. Feels like a lot to me. Muta's providing vision for another Nidus Worm in the main base. And this is starting to feel at least a little similar to game number 2 for me, where Dark is starting to do his smothering, right? Like, this is still playable right here for Stats, don't get me wrong. It's just that the map makes it quite difficult for him to really have a lot of longevity in another 5 minutes. I think that's basically what Dark's plan is. Keep on chomping. Keep on moving. This is expensive though, Dark. Big mistake. Big mistake. Lovely punishment right there by our Protoss. In the meantime, Zergling run by getting cleaned up. Muta's in the main base. Ultra's in the main base through the worm. Okay. Expensive. Couple of roaches over here getting shut down. Yeah. It's reminding me of game 2, but not in the most positive way, right? Like, this is Dark trying to punish his opponent. But it's all very committed. Like, this is not Dark, who's got more money in the bank than our Protoss player. As a matter of fact, he's got significantly less. Massive Zergling run by once again here by Dark. These are pretty much fully upgraded links. And they finished at ground level 3 for the carapace. Oh, okay. Killing the Ultras that are burrowed, apparently. Fair enough. Good management right there by Stats. You can tell why his nickname always was the Shield of Ire, right? We should probably bring it back. Because it's very obvious as to what this man likes to do. He's a bit slow at reacting to the Nidus worms, though. Yeah. He can't warp in any units right now, which is a bit awkward because he's maxed. But it looks like there's nothing inside of that worm for now. Zergling, Baneling run by over here. Stalkers will get sniped. Main army of the Protoss is at the front. Baneling's now moving in again. Can we storm? Okay, a little late on the storm, but at least they, well, did shut down a lot of this before it really got underway. In the meantime, Brute Lords have been shown, and yeah, they are not really something that can be countered at this point by the Protoss player with their current army. Load of probes are going down here, though. I'm starting to be a little worried right here for Stats. I feel like I've said that so many times. These burrowed Ultras are interesting to me. Very expensive unit to burrow, but again, no observer. Where's the observers? Revelation. Ah, that also works. Okay, so Dark has moved from an extremely mobile and very harassment-heavy army to an army that is very rigid in straight-up fighting. We end up with the good old Brute Lord Infestor army. And this is not an easy army to kill by any stretch. So Stats was hoping to get here before we got to this point. Sadly for him, he has not. That window was closed because Dark was trying to just, well, hit him at every single angle. As little gas as Stats had in the previous game, as much as he's got of it right now, it's just that he doesn't really have anything to use it on. Burrowed Zerglings in the main base, providing vision here as well for the Zerg, so he can just put down new worms using the vision of those burrowed links. Ah, the High Templar. Was that all of the Templar? Yep. Hello, lads. Sorry, I backed up like 10 seconds. At least they went out with a bang. Literally. Actually, I guess it's just storm. Don't thunder. There's no banging, never mind. Brute Lords trying their very best. And they will push this back. That is a costly loss, though. Oh, the Templar Archives apparently even got destroyed as well, so we're forced to remake that. There's a great opportunity for Dark to attack right now that he doesn't know. The fleet beacon also fell. It was over here in the back of the main base. But we saw that one going down. And now Dark, okay, is starting to, just stabilize here. It's been a very harassment-heavy style. But it's been much more successful here than I originally thought it was going to be. Initially, it really didn't look like it was achieving that much. But then, when it rains, it pours. Suddenly, a few of the links sneak in, and another base ends up going down. And this is good, though, this movement over here. Brute Lords are slow, so they're not going to be able to get over here in time. By the time that they get there, that base is going to be gone. Protoss army as well. Speaking of Protoss armies, maybe they're needed at home. 2 hatcheries fall on the outer perimeter, it looks like. We may need to do a cheeky little recall, though. Okay, yeah, he does poke that base to death. Stalkers moving forward over here. More probes are going to fall, though. A little bit of a Zergling trap with additional zealots being warped in. Nidus Worm is trying to provide them rescue, but that's not going to happen. Brute Lords, okay, do ultimately find this Stalker army. Slow response right there from Stats is going to cost them. And this army, I mean, recall is not available. Recall is not available. Do we still have the mama ship? Okay, we do have the mama ship. That is lucky right there for those units, because that could have been extremely dangerous. They were pushed all the way towards the bottom left-hand corner. Luckily, Stats had himself that mama ship. A unit that many Protoss players refuse to make. If you look at game number 1, I kind of understand it. But so far, it's already paid for itself. Okay. A lot of infestors here, though, so we have a lot of fungal growths. The fungal growths slow down the Protoss army, and they ultimately enable those Brute Lords to get in more work, so they can actually catch up with this. A lot of expensive Zerg units, though, are falling here. Lovely. Lovely. Still a few Zerglings in the main base. Stalkers over here. Great. Look at this patience. I love that move so much. How many of us would have panicked and clicked the hatchery there? Stats was like, no, I'm gonna get the hatchery regardless. I don't have to rush it. And suddenly, where do we find ourselves now after that sequence of events? I think this is actually quite good for Stats. He's maxed out. He's got a banger of an army. Still nothing all too amazing against Brute Lords in particular. So one thing that Dark can do is just double down on Brute Lords, because it's only Stalkers. Top right-hand base, by the way, taken over here, well, by both Zerg as well as Protoss. Stats doing a phenomenal job splitting up his units. I really like it. It's very risky. If you're caught in a main fight and obviously half your army isn't present, that is not optimal. But he's constantly moving both sides of the map. Good feedbacks here this time around. Fungal growths were already landed though, so a few units will still end up going down. This is a fight that Stats wins, for sure. I mean, obviously you don't really want... I was gonna say, there you go. Nah, this is fine. This is totally fine right here for Stats. You don't want everything to get surrounded, but that was a nice exchange there. Overextension though, Dark's gonna punish. Yeah. Don't know why Stats decided to move forward there. Just a lapse of judgment, I guess. You should really... Oh, he wants that Ultra so bad! Recall, bro, get out of there! What are we doing? Okay, now at least kill the Ultra. There you go. Beautiful. Dude, I'm so excited to see Stats competing at this level right now, though. Ay, ay, ay. One of my favorites. He's back. One thing, actually, that pro gamers have mentioned repeatedly over the years is that one thing casters never highlight is day-to-day variability in performance. So this could be one of those days. We're gonna have to see consistent performances like this from Stats. But this could be one of those days where Dark was feeling a little off and Stats was feeling particularly good, you know? Like, it's very performance-based, obviously, and since this is a single-player game, if you're having an off day, there's no team to back you up. If you're having an off day, that's it. This fight over here, I don't hate it, though. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't hate it because Banelings are not cheap units. I know a lot of Protoss players will think that maybe they're mostly free, but they're 50 minerals and 25 gas each. They're pricey. Another hatchery ends up going down, and we're getting to a point where Dark honestly doesn't have that much income. It's just really difficult on this map for Protoss to secure another base from here. So the 5th base, like I pointed out, is difficult, but where in the world do you go next? All of those bases feel exposed. Now I think that pylon is in... Oh, not right now. Okay, I thought it was gonna be in range. But this base in the top right, very tricky. Base on the left side of the map, also very, very tricky. Stats is constantly fighting on the flanks. So again, he's at the top, he's at the bottom. Problem right now is that Recall is on cooldown. And he's maxed out, so he can't actually do anything to protect his base. Okay. Obviously, you can recall towards the mothership, so that is an option. Instead, what he's decided to do, though, is move the army from the top right-hand corner of the map back towards his bases. That Nexus fell, but honestly, that Nexus wasn't that big of a deal. Observer is in the mix here, too. Another hatchery gets denied. Dude, this is a beautiful game of StarCraft. I love this. Not this, like, slow Stargate-focused army, although I guess it's coming. But Stets is showing us another skill, right? Like, this is not that just I'm gonna defend and I'm gonna hit you in the face when I finally max out type of approach. We're maybe gonna get there eventually in this game, but this is him showing a variety of playstyles, and I love this one. I think this is very good. This is a very difficult style to play. Super easy to overextend. Okay. Constantly moving. Zealots, go, go, go. Couple transfuses right there. Keep in mind, we can always recall the entirety of the Protoss army in the direction of the mothership. Now, I don't know if there's ever a good moment for it. Double Lurker Den, by the way, on the production tab. Yeah, so we have 2 of them going instantly into double upgrades. Drones are burrowed in the bottom left. 2 expansions taken on the left side of the map. Oh. Stats doing this? Okay. Alright. We're gonna go for some neural parasites on the most insignificant units. I mean, Oracles are both the best unit that Protoss has. But at this point in the game, also the most insignificant. I'm sorry, lads. I'm just saying that Stats doesn't really care about you that much. No, not again, not again, not again. Okay, we did a recall apparently. Fight in the top right-hand corner. Ooh, a couple of the Lurkers getting stuck. Careful those Stats. A lot of the Immortals and Archons in the front, but I think it's fine. Queens in the meantime. Pushing the bottom left-hand corner also is gonna, yeah, get shut down. That Nidus Worm is not gonna kill that base. No energy. Nah, there's no energy on those Infestors. So they will not be able to cast Fungal Growth. Stats, don't get your army trapped. Move home, dude. Move home. Okay, and he does. Stats maxed out. Dark, 182 supply. Dark is out of gas. Oh, I'm getting nerd chills here. This is so well played. This is still on a razor's edge, though, because this is not that super powerful, slow-moving Protoss army. This is the more mobile approach instead, and just Brute Lords alone. Very, very powerful against it. Tempests are coming. I like it. Stats has been maxed out for a long while now, so he couldn't actually start up that Skytool's transition any earlier. One of the Stargates, rather, is still unpowered. Okay, finally the Brute Lords are on the offensive. Ultras here trying their very best as well, and that's going to be enough for sure. Stats moving in. Looks like he's moving on over towards the bottom left-hand corner. He's giving up on the left side of the map. I think it's clever because these bases are mined out, and there's not that much infrastructure. Okay, Cloaking Field being activated over here. Spore Crawler is, however, going to be... Okay, burrowing right next to it. Stalkers moving forward. There are still some Stormy Boys available too. Hydras, once again, pop out of their cocoons. Oh my god, he's gonna go after the Lurker Dens. This is so risky. Zerg army, yeah, is gonna go back home. I think it's the right call. Big Zergling counterattack. Ultra still going to go to town. We may very well need to see a recall over there, but the Protoss army, after years of being separated, they have finally found each other again. Recall in the direction of the mothership. What are we recalling? Okay, couple Tempest, fair enough. Apparently, Stats has decided that this is the army we want to win with. We do have a mass recall available, however, so he can get out of there with at least, I want to say, half of his units here. That recall circle is not that big. He's going to go after all of the tech right here of Dark. Dark, in the meantime, though, has taken the entire right side of the map. He's also taken that central base. I wouldn't mind seeing him build a bunch of drones there. Reinforcing Protoss units are probably going to get warped in over here, so we do have some reinforcements in that area. But the Hive at this point is gone. The Lurker Dens are gone. Hydra Den, Ultra Cavern, Spawning Pool, everything's dead. Other than the Infestation Pit, I guess? Hydra Den is being Oh, actually, the Hydra Den never went down. Okay, Spawning Pool went down. Do we still have a Spire? No, Spire is also dead. Huh. No! Zachary, no! Recall, recall, recall. So, you guys apparently didn't make the cut. Sorry. I feel like you should probably leave the Stalkers behind at that point so you can, like, blink them out. I think he's gonna wait until he's got another mass recall available. Dark is not checking. He assumes that the entire army left. Oh, this is so much money here, though, caught up in units that can't leave at the moment. They're gonna walk out? Oh my lord, he's gonna walk them out. Careful, careful, no, dude. Stats. You should wait for the recall, dude. Well, I mean, those storms are good. Oh my god, those storms are really good. Push over here as well at the front. Still a lot of Brute Lords available. Still no proper counter for them. We do have 4 Tempests. Actually, we have 4 Tempests. Tempest, go! Revelation together with Tempests? No, not the Brute Lords directly. We gotta go after the Corruptors first. Bit of miscontrol once again. Looks like the fight over here has ultimately been won by the Protoss player, but a lot of expensive units have gone down. Stats has smashed his piggy bank, and he's... Well, actually, he's got a lot of money in the bank. He should really remax here, is what I'm saying. We should definitely see another pylon here. We should have seen that about 20 minutes ago. Okay, so, where do we end up? We end up with an army composition that is similar to game number 1. At least that's where Stats is headed. These Zergling run-bys are absolutely killer, though. Yeah, okay. Oh, Cloaking Field activated on the Mothership again. Spore Crawler and Overseer apparently too far away. There's the Revelation once again from the Oracle. That's gonna allow those Tempests to shoot at their maximum range, because they have vision. Zergling Hydra here. Okay, we're gonna need to see a warp in the bottom left-hand corner. Stasis Ward, though, is going to buy additional time. Looks like Stats has found the base in the top right-hand corner. Brute Lords, are they brave enough to move on down to the low ground? Carriers, Stalkers, Tempest, I mean, all of it would be excellent against everything right now that Dark has. Okay. Oh, man, the decision-making here by Stats, though, it is something else. Like, I feel like these are those decisions that you're inspired by, and then, yeah, you give it a try, and it utterly fails. Stats right now, though, up with his back against the wall, economically speaking. He needs to win effectively with the army that he's got right now. Is it good enough? He's got barely any income. There's still some mining happening over here. He's just very slow at spending the bank. We've got so much money. We have 6,000 resources in the bank, actually. It's kind of absurd. We're not producing anything. Stats probably hasn't looked at his resource count in a very long time. He believes that he does not need it. He is going to try and see if he can suffocate his opponent with this army that he's got right here, right now. But he hasn't made any reinforcing army units in a very long while. It may be, though, that his gut instinct here is correct. He's warping in, okay, Zealot, Stalkers, and Sentries of all units. I think he wants to basically just force field his opponent out. That's the idea. We should really just power up a bunch of carriers. He has won the fight over here, though. And Dark is... I think Dark is dead. I think Dark actually is dead here. This army is never gonna win against this Protoss army. Still very risky. Yo, Stats at this point is also a supply block, by the way. He can no longer produce units, but here is the mass recall. Storms are gonna end up going down. Cloaking Fields get activated. And it's Stats who obtains the victory 2-1 over Dark. What a beautiful series of StarCraft 2. You know what? My favorite part about it is the fact that those engagements in isolation actually didn't necessarily go that great for Stats. Much better in game number 3 than in game number 1 and 2. But overall, there's still room for improvement. And that's exciting. Obviously, Dark did make a few slip-ups as well. Don't get me wrong. He by no means played a perfect game either, but Stats is back.